Stop comparing yourself to others. You are unique. That's probably the most useless advice anyone has ever given you. Not because it's wrong, but because knowing it and actually feeling it, those are two completely different things. Because you can tell yourself, don't compare all you want, but then you open your phone, and there it is. Someone from your class just got promoted. Someone you grew up with just bought a house. Someone your age just launched a company. And suddenly, you're doing math. Painful, pointless, late-night math about where you are and where you thought you'd be by now.
This is the comparison trap. And it's not a new problem. Humans have always looked sideways at each other. It's literally wired into us. Your brain uses other people as reference points to measure safety, status, and survival. But here's what's new. For most of human history, you only compared yourself to the people in your village. Maybe 100 people. People whose struggles you actually saw. Now, you're comparing yourself to 8 billion people. Curated, filtered, posted at the best possible moment of their best possible day. You're not seeing their life. You're seeing their highlight reel. Their LinkedIn announcement, not the 6 months of rejection before it. Their vacation photo, not the credit card bill that followed. Their "we bought a house" post, not the argument they had about it at 2 a.m. And you're comparing their stage to your backstage. That's not a fair fight. That was never a fair fight. Now here's where it gets worse. Because on top of social media, there's another layer of pressure that nobody really talks about. The standard timeline. Graduate by 22, land a real job by 23, 6 figures by 25, in a relationship by 27, own property by 30. Have it all figured out, preferably before your parents ask about it at the next family dinner. Nobody made this timeline. Nobody voted on it. It just exists. In the air, in conversations, in the way people ask, "So what are you doing these days?" with that specific tone. And when you don't hit those marks, or when you hit some but miss others, you don't just feel behind. You feel like you're failing at being a person, like everyone else got a manual that you somehow missed. Here's the truth, though. That feeling of being behind, of not being where you should be, that feeling is almost always a comparison, not a fact. It's your life measured against a fictional standard built from other people's best moments. Psychologists call this social comparison theory. In 1954, Leon Festinger figured out that humans instinctively measure themselves against others, not to feel bad, but to understand where they stand. It's information gathering. The problem is our brain can't tell the difference between real information and a curated Instagram grid. There are 2 directions comparison goes. Upward comparison, looking at people who have more, which usually triggers either motivation or despair. And downward comparison, looking at people doing worse, which gives a short burst of relief, but doesn't actually change anything about your situation. Neither one is a strategy. Comparison by itself is just noise. It tells you where other people are. It tells you nothing about where you should be. So here's the only reframe that actually works. And I'm not going to dress it up because it's simple, but simple doesn't mean easy. Stop measuring yourself against other people's position. Start measuring yourself against your own previous position. Not am I where they are, but am I further than I was? 6 months ago, 1 year ago, 3 years ago, that's the only timeline that was ever built for you. Because it's the only one that's actually yours. This doesn't mean you stop being ambitious. It doesn't mean you're okay with staying still. It means you stop bleeding energy into a race you were never actually entered in.
Now, if everything I just said makes sense to you, if you can nod along and think, yeah, I get it, stop comparing, measure my own progress, then here's what I need you to sit with. Understanding it is not the same as escaping it, because there's something underneath the comparison trap, something that keeps pulling you back even when you know better. It's not laziness, it's not weakness, it's a specific psychological pattern. And it might be the most quietly destructive thing in the lives of people who actually want to grow. We'll get into that next time.
This is Release Inner Strength. Drawn stories for a stronger mind. If this message helped you see yourself differently, subscribe for more videos about mindset, resilience, and personal growth. Because the strongest version of you may not need to be created, it may only need to be released.